The Contractor, 2022, Summary. Sergeant First Class James Harper, a decorated Special Operations Forces, SOF, medical sergeant, is riding his motorcycle on his way home to Fort Bragg. James arrives home to find his son, Jack, and his wife, Brianne, waiting for him. Jack shows Harper a piece of art he created, which features an airplane, clouds, houses, and trees. The following day, Jack assists his father in cleaning their backyard. Later, James teaches Jack how to swim while Brianne watches them. Jack has grown 1 inch taller in the past 7 months. James meets the new commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Roberts. Lieutenant Colonel Roberts informs James, blood work came back filthy with stanozolol, nandrolone, phenylpropionate and HGH. James explains that he uses steroids to stay in shape. Because of these steroids, Big Army has decided to revoke James's Special Forces tab. Roberts will not do that. James is leaving the Army with an honorable discharge. However, James loses his benefits, which include his pension and health care. James salutes Roberts and then leaves. James explains to Brianne that the reason for his discharge is that he took illegal steroids for his ailing knee, which were detected in his blood. James and Brianne sit together and discuss their debts. In their conversation, they mention private contracting. In a flashback, young James is getting a tattoo of the United States flag on his right arm, a birthday gift from his father. During the burial of their fellow soldier Mason, Mike invites James to his new house for dinner. They then go to Mike's residence, where James meets Mike's wife and children. Mike leads a prayer, after which they eat and discuss their experiences as soldiers, focusing on their pasts and shared memories. While they drink beer, Mike shares his story about earning a substantial income by offering special skills as a military contractor. James asks Mike if he can include James in their private military group. Mike informs James that he will arrange a meeting between James and his boss, Rusty. They then drive to Rusty's residence, where he introduces himself as Rusty Jennings. Rusty informs James that their group operates under direct presidential authority as outlined in Title 50 and deals strictly with matters of national security. Rusty mentions a situation in Berlin that poses a threat to national security. Rusty asks James if he would like to join the upcoming mission in Berlin, and James agrees. A $50,000 check gets cut for James even before he starts, Rusty saying, "So you're not sweating them while you're working with us." James informs his wife that he has secured a job. Brianne asks, "What kind of job did you get?" James responds, "It's babysitting corporates. It's not dangerous." In a flashback, young James and his soldier father pose together, displaying their tattoos of the United States flag as a cameraman captures their photo. James arrives in Germany and rests at a hotel. Later, one of their associates, a woman, arrives to explain the plan. The woman introduces Salim Mohsen, 42 years old, a professor emeritus of virology at Humboldt-Universität, Berlin. The woman also informs James that Salim's primary focus is on research work conducted at a private laboratory located 40 kilometers east of town. In a hidden location, James begins photographing Salim and his family at their home. James zooms in with his camera to capture the passcode for the main entrance. James continues to surveil Salim at the laboratory building where he is employed. James takes a photo of a pig being transported, which could serve as a subject for some experiments. Mike, their leader, informs his team who Salim Mohsen is. Mike informs them that Salim's research work in Berlin is financed by Farouk Ogier, the founder of Al-Dawa, with known links to Al-Qaeda. Mike presents the floor plans of the target building. The group then drives to the target location. At gunpoint, they approach the guard on duty and restrain him with zip ties. They then use the guard's thumb to open the main door of the laboratory building. They begin searching every room for Salim until they find him working. They restrain Salim with zip ties and begin asking questions. Salim informs them that he backs up all his work on all the computers in the lab. Mike instructs them to bag the laptop and tells James to eliminate Salim. While James is preparing to kill Salim, Salim tells him, "The research I am doing will save millions of lives. I keep a copy of all my data in a safety deposit box. The world will need it." James injects a substance into Salim that kills him. They then set the laboratory on fire and leave. As they depart, they see police cars approaching. A gunfight then ensues between them and the police. As Mike goes to get the bag containing the laptop, he is hit at the leg. After the long gunfight, only Mike and James remain on their team. James carries the injured Mike as they make their escape. They manage to cross a river and swim into a storm drain tunnel until they find a safe place to rest. James then tends to Mike's wound. Mike tells James that if he dies, James should inform Christine, Mike's wife, about what happened. Meanwhile, German police continue their search for the remaining survivors of Mike's team. They are about to start walking when James's knee gives out. He tells Mike to go ahead, assuring him that he will catch up soon. In a hotel, James attempts to care for his injured knee while waiting for Mike to return. Hearing no news on Mike, James leaves the hotel. James buys a new phone and SIM card, then contacts Rusty. Rusty informs him that Mike never made it to Berlin. James informs Rusty of his precise location, and Rusty instructs James to begin moving toward the water. He should head down to the northwest corner of Elson Bridge, where he needs to arrive within 15 to 20 minutes for extraction. James arrives at Elson Bridge and contacts Rusty, who informs him that a brown BMW is his extraction car. Suddenly, Rusty's henchmen begin shooting at James. He manages to jump into the river and attempts to escape. James strikes one of the henchmen and seizes his gun. Two henchmen follow James into a tunnel, where they engage in a brutal fight. James manages to kill one of them by striking his head multiple times with a hard object. James interrogates the injured henchman and discovers that he is a former Marine. The former Marine explains that their mission is to extract a target, but they receive a message instructing them to kill James after they pick him up. Before dying, he provides James with information about a safe house but warns him that he can never return home. James leaves the storm drain tunnel and boards a train. He goes to Salim's residence and threatens Sylvie, Salim's wife, with harm to her or her family if she does not answer all of his questions. James demands the location of the safe deposit box where Salim has secured his work. They then drive to the bank to retrieve the contents of the safe deposit box. Sylvie retrieves Salim's iPad and hands it to James. After gathering all the necessary information to unlock the iPad, James leaves the car. James then calls the safe house mentioned earlier by the former Marine for pickup. A car arrives, and James gets into the car only to be tranquilized. James wakes up in the safe house, lying in a bed where he is restrained. The safe house caretaker unties him and informs him that he has cleaned James's knee, as it was severely infected. The safe house caretaker mentions that the words national security is just a cover for Rusty and his group to conceal their illicit activities. James opens Salim's iPad and discovers a recorded video of Salim addressed to Yanis, Salim's son. Salim said, "Yanis, in your hands is my life's work, the vaccine for the H5N1 virus with a mortality rate of 16%. I want you to know that your father stood for something. Created something that with your help will benefit humanity long after they've shot me down." The safe house caretaker leads a prayer before James and him have dinner. While they are eating, the caretaker of the safe house is shot dead. Then their power goes out. James lights a candle near the kitchen range and then opens the gas tank. James leaves as the assassins enter the safe house. Upon reaching the kitchen, the gas tank explodes, killing the assassins. James departs from the safe house in a car and makes his way to the airport. James arrives in the United States of America. He goes to see Christine, Mike's wife, to tell her that Mike died during a mission, as James had been instructed by Mike earlier. Upon arriving at Mike's residence, he sees Mike with his family. James then leaves Mike's residence. The following day, Mike leaves his house, and James follows him. Mike's car enters a public parking area. As James approaches Mike's parked car, Mike assaults him. Mike asks James what he is doing in his house. James responds that he is going to tell Christine that he died during a mission. They argue until James seizes Mike's gun. James explains that what they stole was not data, it is a cure for a virus that Rusty's group wants to release in order to make billions of dollars from it. James then informs Mike that there is only one way to resolve the problema. They travel to Rusty's location. Upon entering Rusty's vicinity, they find some of his henchmen drinking beer around a campfire. Mike gets out the car and kills them all. A gunfight ensues. Rusty tries to shoot Mike, who is hiding near a car. James enters Rusty's house, shoots one henchman, and then engages in hand-to-hand combat with another. Rusty manages to shoot Mike in the stomach, causing him to collapse. James kills the other henchman with a rear naked choke. Mike is shot again by Rusty. James approaches the wounded Rusty, who tells him, "I always wanted to die with my boots on." Without hesitation, James shoots Rusty. James carefully carries the wounded Mike into the car and drives home. The dying Mike tells James to inform his son that he did not die in his sleep. The following morning, James sets the car on fire with Mike's lifeless body inside. James then goes home to visit his family.